I'm joined by Miatta Fahnbulleh, Chief Executive of the New Economics Foundation. Good afternoon to you, Miatta.
Good afternoon.
We know that we're going to hear something later on from the Treasury about what package of measures above and beyond potentially that what was announced at the budget last week will be for businesses. I'm hearing from concerned business owners and managers. What do you say should be in that announcement?
Well, so what's becoming very, very clear is that the scale of the economic impact of the pandemic is going to be absolutely profound. And it's not just the kind of direct, immediate hit to businesses here, but it's the fact that we're going to see a huge slowdown in the global economy. So the government is going to have to pull something quite dramatic out of the bag. And we're talking about a kind of rescue package in the hundreds of billions at this stage. And I think there are two things. There's kind of shoring up businesses that, will be struggling from the fact that there's going to be a huge drop in demand and therefore a kind of cash flow problem. But for me, the key priority in all of this is that whatever the government does to support business, it does it in a way that protects people and their families, because many, many families are going to be in a really, really difficult, precarious position, either because they're having to self-isolate or, we are moving very quickly towards a formal lockdown. At the moment, the government's sort of doing a kind of voluntary lockdown. I think it's probably going to get tougher and more stringent in the next sort of week, 2 weeks. So a lot of people, even if they wanted to, aren't going to be able to work. And at the moment, we don't have any sort of support structure for them. And then what's seeming to kind of be coming through is that we're going to be seeing unemployment at a scale we haven't seen for years. So because of that, we need a response that, yes, shores up business, but fundamentally is looking to support families across the country.
I see from Beth Rigby of Sky News, I see from her Twitter feed that her understanding is the government plans to take action on evictions. There will be guidance issued to courts to make sure no one is evicted because of coronavirus.
Which is a good step in the right direction. So if you think about families, and actually, the average family now, very little savings have been accumulated. Most people are living hand to mouth. So any sort of interruption of their income for, a week, 2 weeks, we're possibly talking about, several weeks and months, will be absolutely catastrophic. So the government needs to do two things. It needs to support their income. So, £74, which is how much you can claim through benefits, is just not going to cut it. Other countries like Denmark, for example, are talking about shoring up wages and saying, look, the state is going to guarantee 75% of your wages. So the government is definitely going to have to do something on income, and then it's going to have to do something on the cost side. So what evictions does is that you can't be kicked out, but there are going to be lots of people who are paying rent, who are paying mortgages that aren't going to be able to afford to pay it. And what the French have done is to say, actually, we'll create a moratorium of having to pay utility bills, rents, mortgages. So the government is going to have to think about what it does in order to stop people's costs, as well as what it does in order to support them on the income side.
It was interesting to hear from the caller earlier who runs a boarding kennel, and couldn't access or even find details of how she might access that £3,000 grant for businesses employing fewer than 250 people, I think it was. How difficult do you think it is to get that on stream and working? Because there seems to be a commitment to do better on that, but it's not available for people while their businesses, are threatened with closure, while they have staff they can only pay for a certain time, and there are only so many walls that people can paint, and
Absolutely. So with all the will in the world, how the government gets the money out the door and gets it out the door in a way that is quick and easy for people to access will be a huge problem. And government always has these business support schemes, these loan guarantee schemes, and actually they're really, really hard for people to access, and they take time. And what the government doesn't have is time. So it needs to be thinking about how it uses existing institutions, so how you use banks in order to filter some of this money out very quickly, how it uses local institutions, so how using local government, for example, that will have roots into businesses in their community in order to try and get money out and get the support out. But what it can't do is just rely on, national bodies being able to pump the stuff out and pump it out quickly. It's going to have to build a partnership of organisations that can help it provide the support that businesses need very, very quickly.